What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook. Tuesday afternoon? I don't know, these days all blend together. Thought I'd jump on here. Just posted a video about why Dez Bryant to Green Bay makes a world of sense. I understand there are a lot of pushback on that, so I thought I'd jump on here and have a little conversation with you fine folks. Obviously, this all stems from Jason Witten telling Adam Schefter on an ESPN podcast that he thinks Dez Bryant ends up in Green Bay. Jake, hello. Thank you for joining us. Clearly, it's not the only topic, but you know, it's a little less than a week before OTAs begin. It's scorching hot here in New York City. Thought I'd stir it up a little bit with you fine folks. Javier, what's up, man? Luis, what's up? Mike, thanks for joining us. Scott, hello. Any stock in Dez? I have none, no. What's going on, Corbin? How are you? So, as I stated in the video, make sure you check it out at PackersNews.com. I think it makes sense. I doubt it happens. I think Dez Bryant does end up elsewhere. But, look, when you look at the Packers and you look at the fact that, yes, they drafted 3 young wide receivers, big, tall guys, all of them, I don't doubt that they could get some contributions from them this season. But, you know, with Devante Adams being your lone perimeter guy with some serious connection with Aaron Rodgers, ability on the perimeter, Jordy Nelson clearly entering his 3rd year. You hope he steps up. It's not exactly a dynamic playmaker. Something that I think Dez Bryant still can be. I know he has taken some hits. He's definitely coming off a down year. I tend to think much of that is due to the quarterback play. I think having Aaron Rodgers throw him the football, especially some of the back shoulder work that he's able to do, I think he could have a monster year. And for no other reason is the way he would help open up an offense. If he's taking on number 2 corners with safety shaded towards Devante Adams, I mean, I like those odds. It helps open up things for Randall Cobb across the middle, not to mention Jimmy Graham. I just think it makes sense. Now, again, do I think it'll happen? Probably not. But to dismiss it out of hand as an impossibility, I think is naive. Drop Cobb, sign Dez. Well, I tend to think that's not going to happen simply because Cobb is your guy in the slot. Dez Bryant's not running in the slot. Jordy Nelson has some experience in the slot, but he's not really a slot receiver. Montgomery clearly could run in the slot, but he's been unable to stay on the field. I don't think you really have to cut anybody. It does obviously would heighten the competition along the wide receiver core, especially those young guys. Release old Jordy to pick up Dez. How does that make sense? It's funny. Some Packer fans are unable to see this without looking through the Jordy Nelson lens, and I understand that. I really do. But it makes sense because Dez Bryant has not lost his suddenness as an athlete. The Packers clearly believe that Jordy Nelson has. All you got to do is watch the second half of last year to see that Jordy Nelson was not the athlete he once was, especially after the catch. Now, Dez Bryant is not the athlete he once was after the catch, but I still contend that he's a more sudden athlete with the ball in his hand, and I think he still has the ability to dominate guys one-on-one in the red zone and on the slant and things of that nature. All of that said, the real reason it makes sense is because both of them were cut by their respective teams because of their oncoming salaries. Jordy Nelson was let go because he was slated to make $12 million, and he balked at making a little bit over the veterans minimum. To bring Dez Bryant in, you would only be able to pay him, or I suspect you would only offer him, something a little over the veterans minimum. Bryant has reportedly said that he wants to go someplace on a 1-year deal to pump up his numbers and show that he's still got it. What better place to do that than in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football? Jordy Nelson was not interested in that. Jordy Nelson wanted to ride out the end of his deal and possibly retire with Aaron Rodgers. And, that made sense from his standpoint, from the Packers' standpoint. Paying him $12 million to not do much between the 20s and be his quarterback security blanket, they decided they'd much rather have Jimmy Graham and Muhammad Wilkerson for the same money. That's how it makes sense. I understand, again, Jordy Nelson, fan favorite, but signing Dez Bryant would have very little to do with Jordy Nelson. Brett Hundley made Jordy lose his job. Let's be real. I very much disagree with that. Dez can't separate. That may be the case, but neither can Jordy Nelson. Dez Bryant can still run a slant, can still win a back shoulder ball, still a monster in the red zone. He still has value. Dez, 1 year, $7.5 million. Zach, I would tend to think that would be a bit much, a bit rich for the Packers' blood. I know he turned down a Ravens deal, averaging around $7 million a year. I tend to think he'd have to take a little bit less than that on a 1 year deal in Green Bay. But again, this is their MO. They use Aaron Rodgers as the bait. And you got to think, for a guy who wants a great quarterback throwing him the football, Aaron Rodgers is a tempting proposition. You don't want Dez. He's only going to end up dropping the ball. Boom, you got all of that one. Dez can get separation against quarterback twos. Possibly. Has Rodgers spoke on the Dez? No, Adam, not that I'm aware of. He hasn't been asked about it because we haven't seen him. But perhaps that will change next week. 1 year, $5 million. Jeremy, I think that makes sense. I can't believe we traded for him. I'm not sure who you're talking about there, Corey. There are so many Zachs in these chats. That's great. Is there any defensive end in free agency you think the Pack would be considering? No. Now, maybe there's a surprise cut in the future, but I tend to think the Packers will look at what they've got over the course of OTAs and mini camps, and pretty much ride with what they have. Can you catch the ball? No. Can I catch the ball? No. Absolutely not. Why is Dez still out there? Has he made any visits? No visits that I know of, Dusty, but he did turn down an offer, a 3-year, $20 million offer from the Ravens. That has been reported. How does it work if a rookie refuses to sign a contract? That means he's a holdout, and then he gets fined every day he's not in camp. But that's like 3 months away. The Packers, the other news of the day, of course, is that Jair Alexander signed his rookie deal, which will be a 4-year deal with a 5th-year option since he's a first-round pick. They have only 2 draft picks left to go. They're 2nd and 3rd rounders. Rappaport just reported Packers are not engaged with Dez Bryant. Well, of course. That's not news. We knew that. Would he be a good person in the locker room? I don't know. Remember Andre Rison? Yeah, I remember how he helped them win a Super Bowl. Jari Evans going to be re-signed? Phil, it doesn't feel like it. Now, maybe there's an injury along the way, or they don't like what they see in OTAs and minicamp, then possibly he gets a call. Raji is better than Dez. At what, Matthew? Do you think that Hundley will be released in the middle of the season? I don't know about the middle of the season. I think it's a possibility at the end of training camp if Deshaun Kaiser beats him out for the backup quarterback spot. What's going on with Aaron Rodgers' contract? Timothy, I tend to think they'll have it done by the start of training camp. Who starts the season at right tackle? Steven, that is an excellent question. Probably Kyle Murphy. We'll have to wait and see, but I highly doubt it's going to be Brian Bulaga because I highly doubt he's going to be ready. Who will be the better cornerback draft pick? Yeah, really hard to say until we see him on the field, Jeff. I like both their tape. Yeah, I think Jair Alexander will have more opportunity, simply because I think he'll get more reps in the slot. Kenny Clark Pro Bowl, Ronnie, a good chance. He's coming on. Any needs the Packers need going forward? Any needs the Packers need? Need to fill, I think is what you're saying there. Right tackle is something they got to be looking at. I mean, hoping maybe someone comes free, salary cap cut or what have you, but there's not much out there at this point. So what their squad is right now is probably what it'll be heading into camp. If McCarthy is fired, who would you like to see as the next head coach? Someone who would give me their personal phone number and call me prior to all news that's about to be made in 1265 Lombardi. Whoever that guy is, he's got my vote. O-line, the weakest link on the team? That's a good question, Phil. I think right tackle may be, simply because of the uncertainty. Has Goody passed his first off-season tests? I spoke with Will Brinson about this on the CBS football podcast earlier. Was it last week? I think he's had a really strong off-season. The moves he made in free agency, coupled with the draft and the inclusion of having 2 first-round picks next year, I think he's done a very good job. Now, you're always going to quibble with the way he went about things and what he could have done, etc. But for the cards that he was dealt and the roster he was handed, I think he's done a pretty good job. I love people who are so passionate about Dez. No Dez, please! All exclamation points. A lot of praise for tight end Bird. Yeah, Ahmad, he showed some things last year in camp. He arrived late, and then we didn't really see him until that Week 17 game in Detroit. He's got athleticism, and Rodgers has shown, at least in practice, he's not afraid to throw to the guy. So, we'll see. There's definitely snaps to be had there behind Jimmy Graham and Lance Kendricks. I love me some Jordy, but I think Dez is worth the risk. It's possible. Let's toss Josh Jackson. How do you feel about him? Joshua, I think he's got a real opportunity on the perimeter to learn behind Tramon Williams. My hunch is that Kevin King will win the job opposite Tramon, and Josh will see time in nickel and dime. But you look at the production last year, you like what you see. Obviously, a bit of a ball hawk. You do wonder about the late bloomer aspect, but the physicality is there. He doesn't seem to have a major issue with press man technique, which is something he'll be asked to do. He seemed to be better in college with his eyes on the quarterback and in playing some zone or bail technique. But you gotta like what you see. Just a question of can he translate against NFL talent. Is Allison going to beat the rookies in camp? I think so. I think his combination of knowing the offense and having the trust of Aaron Rodgers gives him a big leg up. What do you think about Equiminius St. Brown? Is he a possible starter? I think down the line, maybe. I would be very surprised if he became a starter outside of guys in front of him getting injured, maybe towards the end of the year. But he would have to make a pretty big, significant jump for him to crack the starting lineup, at least I would think. Clay's last season, Chuck, it's a possibility. We talked about this yesterday. I think if he has the kind of year he had last year, and I know it wasn't a huge year on the stat sheet, but he played very good football throughout the season. I think they would be amiable to bringing him back on a obviously reduced salary. Now, whether Clay would be amiable to that, I don't know. Maybe he would want to go test the free agent waters, but I think there's a good possibility they bring him back for a year or two more. What is your favorite Packers offensive lineman of all time? Woo, what a question. Probably Forrest Gregg, just because he was so nasty. I love Jerry Kramer. Obviously, long overdue that he got into the Hall of Fame, but Gregg was just a beast. I would take Kaepernick over Dez. That's bold. I probably agree. I think he'd be a major upgrade over what they have behind Rodgers right now, but obviously I don't see that happening. We've got a good secondary if they are all healthy. We'll see. There's a lot of potential there, a lot of promise, but until these rookies get some pelts on the wall, so to speak, it's all just kind of hope and a prayer, I think Tramon showed last year he still got it, although without Father Time, you never really know. And then you look at Devon House, who they signed back. He, a very inconsistent player. So there are question marks there. The potential is there for it to be very good, but that's going to be a lot of work on the part of these young guys to step up and hit the ground running, so to speak. What about the strong safety position? Brandon, you got to think Josh Jones has the inline there, but McCarthy, kind of unprompted, said that Kentrell Bryce will be in the mix to start opposite HaHa Clinton Dix. Don't forget Marwin Evans. They really like him. They like his athleticism. I don't think he's going to push for a starting job, but he had a very impressive interception last year. Some people maybe forgot that, but he's shown ability in the league. So I think there's good talent there. You know, I know there are still safeties out there. Some safeties starting to take more visits, so maybe the safety market picks up, but I'd be surprised if the Packers dip their toes in those waters. North Hudson, what's up, Mike? Do you think running back may get some playing time this year? Good question. I imagine you're talking about Devante Mays, who had 2 fumbles, his very first 2 touches in the NFL, that Ravens game. I really liked him in camp last year. I thought he was the strongest runner of the group. The guy just tears through tacklers, but he's got to hold on to the football. And clearly those 2 fumbles put him in the doghouse. Clean slate, comes back this summer. Let's see what he gives them. It's gonna be hard to track a rotation that features Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones, and Ty Montgomery, but he's got the ability. It's just a question of what he does with those opportunities. Devon House gets benched by week 4. Ed, I'd be shocked if he's starting. I think Devon House has got he's got all he can handle to make the squad with all the drafting they did in the secondary. Who was the worst bust, Jamal Reynolds or Justin Harrell? Oh, what a question. I'll go with Jamal Reynolds. Well, will Pipkins play any? Matthew, I think he could be, he's a bit of the forgotten man, no doubt about it. I think he'll be given the opportunity. I think he flashed a little bit last year on the perimeter. I don't know about him in the slot, but, I mean, you can't rule him out. As I was just talking about, there's a lot of potential and a lot of unknown. Pipkins has flashed and played at a decent level in the NFL. It's just a question if he can take to Pettine's scheme and really make the most of all of his opportunities, because you got to think when it comes to camp, he's not going to get a ton of reps in lieu of all these draft picks they have and young guys that are most likely ahead of him on the depth chart. So he's going to have to make the most of every single opportunity. But you can't completely dismiss the possibility. We've seen guys throughout the years who were a quote-unquote afterthought or were not highly regarded, who have just come to work every day, made plays every day in camp, and worked their way into the rotation. So I really like Pipkins. I think he had a really promising rookie year, but a big part of this is going to be his offseason, what he's done this offseason to maintain what he's done and build on it. I mean, they always talk about that big jump from year 1 to year 2. That could be Pipkins. House won't make it past preseason. It's a possibility. You can't deny it. Will Sam Shields make 1 year in LA? We'll see. What number would Dez wear if he lands with the Packers? I have no idea. Number 1. How great would that be? How do you feel about the new scout hires? Yeah, I saw they hired, I'm forgetting his name, from Cleveland, the area scout. I did reach out and ask about him from a couple people I know around the league. Apparently he's much more adept at scouting big men than he is skill position players, but he's highly regarded. I didn't talk to a single person who had anything bad to say about him. And it's rare when you find a guy who has, you call 10 people and every single one of them sings his praises. Every once in a while, you're going to hear some pushback on a guy, but I didn't hear any. So it's promising, at least. Biggest matchup for the Packers this season? If you're talking about game, like which matchup? I mean, I think the biggest game has got to be the one with the most interest. I don't think it'll have the most kind of effect on their season just because it's not a divisional or a conference game. But that game with New England, everyone's going to be watching that. That game is going to be huge. Probably the last chance, unless they meet in the Super Bowl, to see Rodgers and Brady on the field with their teams going against each other. I was talking to Rich Ryman when I was in Green Bay for the draft, and he said, secondary tickets are already, for nosebleed, are already at like $700. So I just think the interest in that game is just going to be ridiculous. I don't think we need Dez. Will? Yeah, there's every possibility that's how Brian Gutekunst looks at it. You think Ty will remain running back this year or go back to wide receiver? I think he'll remain running back, but he'll definitely play some wide receiver at times. I think Beagle might surprise some people this year. Gabriel, I agree. I mean, I don't know if it's so much that he surprises people. We just don't know what they have there because he missed the entirety of last offseason and then was kind of just thrown in the mix at the end of the year. I agree. They're definitely counting on him. There's no doubt about it. They didn't do much to add to their outside linebacker spot other than late in the draft, so he's got to step up. Even Witten said Dez would be a good fit in Green Bay. Sam, that's kind of what kicked off all the conversation today, is Witten saying to Adam Schefter on his podcast that he thought Dez Bryant would end up in Green Bay. I think Philbin is a great upgrade at offensive coordinator. You can't argue with the results he had last time he was in town. And I do think McCarthy needs someone kind of to push him a little bit more and to say no to him a little bit more. And I get the sense that that wasn't Edgar Bennett. I think, Philbin's, spoken on this. I think his ability to see things during the game and offer up suggestions and adjustments to McCarthy is invaluable. And I think that will be the biggest kind of contribution that Philbin will have, although that's not limited to just that, but I think that is a big part of it. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. I got to take my daughter to CrossFit. My 10-year-old is doing CrossFit for kids. Yes, there's CrossFit for kids. Anyway, in the meantime, make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest. Any breaking news over the night, I'll be on it. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great night.